How to upgrade from a HDB flat to a private property without having to pay rent. Let's go. Hi guys, this is Marcus, and in one of our previous videos, we actually mentioned how you can actually upgrade from your HDB flat to a private property without having to pay rent. This is actually quite a common question asked by many of the buyers, and in the previous video, we actually did an example of you selling your HDB first, then you buy, which is a more common case in today's context because most people are concerned how much they can fetch for the HDB flat. But in most cases where I'm actually managing for my clients, we tend to buy first. Why? Because today as a homeowner with kids staying in your home, and sometimes even your parents are staying with you, finding the perfect home next is very, very important. And therefore, this is the more popular option that I personally recommend and what I do for myself as well. And in this video, I'm going to share with you the tips and tricks that you can apply in order to achieve that seamlessly. And if you like videos like this and find it helpful, do me a favor, tap the like button because it shows the algorithm that this is relevant and it will travel to more people that needs help like this. Thank you. So if you're thinking that this is another boring video where agent is trying to explain to you things that you can search on the internet, trust me, it is not. We're going to share with you industry secrets and even things that agents themselves may not even know, because not all agents in Singapore actually deal with HDB. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now, how I'm going to do this will be, first, I'll be sharing with you the HDB timeline, which is a little bit more complex and multiple steps because obviously it's a HDB flat. Number two, the private property timeline, which is a little bit more straightforward, basically only 3 to 4 steps. And last but not least, I'll share with you the 3 important things that you need to know and you need to apply and pre-negotiate before you select the unit in order to buy the private property, then sell the HDB seamlessly. Now for HDB, it's a lot more complex as mentioned. So stage 1, you need to do your intent to sell. That is very, very important. 7 days later, then you can issue your HDB OTP. Within 3 weeks, the buyer has to exercise the option. If not, you will forfeit the 1,000 deposit that they have given. But do note that they can actually exercise the option way earlier as well. So it doesn't mean they need to exercise only on week 3. Next, you will need to go into the resale submission within the next 30 days, 60 days or 90 days. It's up to your own negotiation. And from there, you'll take another 12 weeks to completion as well. So pro tip, you can actually write into HDB to request for extension of the completion date. That means if you want to complete a little bit later, or if you want to write in to do it earlier, you may try as well. So both of these has to be pre-negotiated before the buyer places an option. And this is a pro tip. For us, right, when we are marketing our HDB units, we always find out from the buyer and pre-qualify the buyer to ensure that they allow us the flexibility in order to stretch or maybe bring forward the completion date as well. Because the last thing you want is to land yourself in a situation that the buyer is not being cooperative and you need to miss the unit that you wish to buy because the buyer cannot meet your timeline. So the ideal kind of profile will be number 1, first-time home buyers who are currently living with their parents. They usually don't really need the house so urgently. Number 2, people who have sold their houses and already gotten an extension from the buyers of their place. And thirdly, those people that just from PR turn to Singaporean, they already have a current lease running and it's not ending so soon. So all in all, these 3 profiles fulfill the same qualities of not being rushed to get a house so that you can pre-negotiate your terms and conditions before you enter into any contracts. Finally, you'll be into your HDB completion where you will be enjoying your 3 months extension of stay. And this is the part that typically screws people up, especially the seller, because the seller takes things for granted. I'm not sure whether your agent told you that the HDB extension of stay contract doesn't mean that the buyer have to stick to it. And if the buyer actually backs out, right, HDB will not interfere. You call police, also no use. Basically, it's a civil suit. So you need to take note of these 3 things. Number 1 is that, like I mentioned just now, it's not a legal contract. If the buyer backs out, you're in trouble. Number 2, you need an exercise option to purchase. For the purchase to apply for these 3 months HDB extension of stay. Without that, you're not able to do so. And finally, the buyer of your unit cannot be doing contra. If they're doing contra, means that they cannot give you the 3 months extension of stay. And these 3 things are very important in order to avoid getting yourself into a situation where the buyer promised you that extension of stay, right, and end up back out. Is that be kind, be cooperative, because many times I realize that the sellers, right, after they allow the buyer to come up and do some measurement one time, next round, the buyer requests for another contractor visit or maybe for the smart home people to come and visit the house. The sellers tend to make it difficult because they say, why didn't you do it the previous time? I mean, pro tip, right, is to be kind. Just be a little bit more accommodative. If you really cannot accommodate to the time that they request for, at least give them an alternative time. Don't just say that, no, you came the other time already, this time around I'm not going to let you come over here. No, avoid at all costs. Just be nice, so that when the time, if the buyer faces a difficulty in their own timeline, right, they'll be kind towards you as well. This is called good karma. Now that's all for the HDB procedures. Next, we want to talk about the private property. But before we go into the timeline and the key milestones, we want to talk about the financials first. For context, we'll be using a $1.5 million purchase price. You need a total down payment of $423,000 estimated, of which 5% needs to be in cash for down payment. And also, do take note that your stamp duty needs to be paid in cash for a private resale property purchase. And then after the completion, you can apply for a remission and then use your CPF instead. And do note, this is a common mistake by most buyers and even agents as well, because when you're buying a new launch property, you basically can use your CPF to pay for your stamp duty due to some timeline issues and whatnot, which I'm not going to go into the details, but do take note of that. Now, how the private property timeline works is a little bit more straightforward, but I need you to take note of this timeline as well, because there are certain adjustments we need to make in order to make it seamless. So firstly, when you see a unit you like, you pay your 1% option fee. Typically it's 1%, and then you will go into a 2 weeks option period. This 2 weeks option period is actually negotiable, and we'll come back to the point later because this is an important note. And within 2 weeks, you'll visit the law firm of your choice. Do take note, not all law firms can actually do conveyancing for every single bank, so do check it out first. Also, before you place an option for your private property, go to a bank, get a bank letter of approval first. We call it an in principle approval. It's absolutely free and it just takes you a few hours and max days for you to get it. After exercising the option, then within 2 weeks, you need to pay for your stamp duty. Like I mentioned just now, stamp duty needs to be paid in cash first. So typically, the lawyer will ask you to go and get a cashier's order for the stamp duty, 4% or 5%, and then you pay up within 2 weeks. The next milestone will be paying for your overall down payment, i.e. the last 20% down payment. Many of my clients will ask me when I need to pay it. For example, if you're using your CPF, you need to apply the CPF withdrawal during the day when you go down to the law firm. But if you are using full cash, you enjoy a bit more flexibility. You basically need to pay the balance 20% a day before the completion date. That means if you give a cashier's order, right, you can bring the cashier's order down during the day of completion. That works as well. But I would like to disclaim, this is usually a very extreme case, but if you have done proper planning, you shouldn't land yourself in that situation. Now, bonus tip for this point, which is the private property timeline, I always advocate my clients, try not to only fixate yourself into one unit and only negotiate one unit, because typically the negotiation process of a private property can be like up to 1 week or even sometimes 2 weeks, because the sellers may be overseas and whatnot. So it takes time for you to bridge the gap at times. But you don't want to fixate yourself to one unit, negotiating for 1 or even up to 2 weeks, only to know that your second option is already taken at a price that you actually okay to buy. And then the first unit that you are negotiating, right, you can never come to a conclusion because the owner is totally not in a hurry and not realistic at all. Now, to make the video more interesting, I'll just give you a real life example which I'm negotiating for my client right now, so that you can gain clarity and you can apply this concept to all the negotiations that you're trying to make in the future. So there are 2 units, both asking for 1.55 million in the same condo. One unit is on the 20th floor, higher floor, nicer view, require less renovation because it's renovated. Second unit is on the 11th floor at 1.55 million as well, requires more renovation because it has been tenanted for the last 6 years and is basically in original condition. Now, what to do next? We actually got the owner to slide in 2 offers, 1 for each. First up, we actually negotiated for the higher floor. Obviously, the unit is at the higher floor, we will offer more. So now we are actually going in at an offer of 1.48 million. Only to know that the client actually came back and told us that they wanted 1.63 million and above. Now, do you still want to buy this unit or not? Obviously, you want lah. But you want to start off at 1.48 million. But to bridge the gap between 1.48 to 1.63, how easy it is. Now, next, the 1.55 million unit owner, right, on the 11th floor, right, eventually came back to say that they're okay to sell at $1.5 million. Now, how do you determine which one is a better buy? So how I broke it down with my clients in a simplified manner is that today, when you buy a private property, when you go to any new launches, typically every floor level up, right, the floor jump will cost typically between $8,000 to $10,000. So for this unit, given that it's from 11th floor, jump all the way up to 20th floor, right? You just take $8,000, multiply by 9 levels, which lands you to $72,000. Just organically in terms of the valuation of both units, right? Evaluate this unit on the 11th floor at $1.5 million, means to say that the valuation of the unit over here will be $5.5 million. So given the unit on the 11th floor requires more renovation, I will just use 30K for example, and the 20th story unit only requires 10K. That means in between the difference will be 20K. So 20K plus 1.59 million means you land yourself at a valuation or evaluation of 1.61 million. So this is how I will evaluate which one I will buy. So today, if let's say the unit on the 20th floor is able to let go at 1.6 and below, I'll take it assuming if the 11th floor unit is able to trade at 1.53 million. But all in all, it's still your own choice because it's your own house, so you decide for yourself. But this is how I look at it. Now, that's all for the timeline and the pro tips for selling your HDB and buying your private property. Last but not least, now I'm going to share with you the mechanisms that you can apply in order to buy first and not having to borrow money or not even having to rent first. No, number one, there's one thing called bridging loan. Bridging loan is basically a short-term loan of up to 6 months. So it's applicable when today you are buying a private property first and you want to use the cash proceeds that's being stuck in your HDB. Now, one thing you need to take note about bridging loan is that number one, the interest rate will be about 5 to 7% depending on the bank and it's prorated. Secondly, in order for the cash from the bridging loan to be disbursed, right, you need the HDB flat option to be already exercised, submit for HDB resale application ready, then you are able to disburse the loan for the bridging as well. Now, for 1.5 million at 20% down payment, altogether you need 300K. For example, you only can afford the 5% cash and the stamp duty. Now, the shortfall is 300,000. However, the completion of your private property is actually 2 weeks before the completion of the HDB flat. Now, how you calculate the 300K will be if, for example, you are taking a 7% bridging loan free interest amount. That means your interest will be 21,000. So 21,000, how it works, because you only need 2 weeks, so 1 year there are 52 weeks. Now if you use a total of 21,000 divide by 52 weeks, means it's $403 per week, multiply by 2 weeks, means to say that your bridging loan facility will cost you just $800. Worth it or not? Tell me in the comments. I personally think it's worth it. At least you can stretch the selling timeline without having stress. So that's all for bridging loan. So bridging loan is an essential part where I always recommend my clients to use, assuming if you don't really need such a long timeline. Secondly, the next mechanism you apply will be the extended option. Many may not know today when you buy a HDB flat, the option period is fixed at 3 weeks. But for private property, you can stretch up to 6 months. For example, for the landed property that I bought, I asked for 8 months extension. And the sellers happily agreed. You know why? Because I paid 5% option. So let's say the house that I bought $1 million, if I pay 5% means I'm paying 50K already. Who would run away when they already paid 50K? So if the person is willing to offer you higher option fee, right, usually it's quite safe already. So as the buyer, use that as a bargaining chip, request for longer option period so that it buys you time to sell your HDB flat. Now, before you jump at me and say that, why am I asking you to pay more cash as down payment? No, absolutely not. Because remember, we need to pay 5% of the down payment needs to be in cash. So when you negotiate to pay upfront more cash, right, at the end, you still be paying 5% down payment. Nothing changed. Now, last but not least is the extension of stay for HDB flat or the early possession, which many people may not know. So basically, when you negotiate the purchase price of the unit, you are able to pre-negotiate whether the owner can give you a slight early move in. That means you can possess the keys before the actual resale completion, which in the context of just now, right, actually the second unit that was tenanted, which was in a more rundown condition, can actually allow us a 2 months early possession, which will make things very easy because then this will free you up of the stress of finding the buyer that can give you the extension of stay for the HDB flat. Now, in order to have a seamless experience without any hiccups or headaches or quarrels, is number one, be kind and accommodative to the buyers that are giving you the extension of stay. Number two, use higher option fee to entice the sellers of the unit you like to give you a longer extended option so that it buys you time to sell your property. Number 3, negotiate not just one unit but maybe 2 or even 3 units at the same time, because the sellers that you are negotiating to buy, you may be motivated but the sellers may not be. So don't be fixated to just one. Bridging loan is worth considering because the amount is really not that substantial. And last but not least, children, don't try this at home. Need any help, consult a professional. If you want, you can call me. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on notification bell, and I'll see you in the next video.